Imagine being a teenager on a sandwich break and accidentally starting a global conflict. On June 28, 1914, one wrong turn by a confused driver puts an assassin face to face with a royal archduke. That single moment triggers a domino effect that drags 70 million people into a 4-year nightmare. But how did a simple wrong turn change the world forever? Welcome to History Bites, where we take the wildest, weirdest, most jaw-dropping moments in history and explain them fast. If you love the kind of history that sounds impossible but actually happened, subscribe. The year is 1914. This is over a century ago, roughly 40 years before your grandparents were even born. Europe is like a giant pile of dry wood waiting for a single spark. Imagine your school has two massive groups of friends who have promised to fight anyone who touches their buddies. That is the alliance system. One side has Germany and Austria-Hungary. The other has France, Russia, and Britain. Everyone is tense. Everyone is armed. And right in the middle of this tension is a place called Sarajevo. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, decides to visit. It is his wedding anniversary. He wants to show off his wife, Sophie, but a group of 7 young assassins is waiting for him with bombs and pistols. Most people don't know this part, but the first attempt on his life that morning is a total disaster. It is 10:10 a.m. The Archduke's motorcade drives down the main street. One assassin throws a bomb. It bounces off the Archduke's folded convertible top and explodes under the car behind him. The Archduke does not panic. He stops to check on the wounded officers. Then, he continues to the town hall for a boring speech. Imagine someone throws a literal bomb at your car and you continue to your meeting. Here's the part nobody puts in textbooks. The other assassins are so shocked the first guy missed that they freeze. One even goes to a deli to buy a sandwich because he thinks the mission is over. But the day is far from finished. After the speech, the Archduke is angry, but he is also worried about the officers injured by the bomb. He insists on visiting them in the hospital. This is like deciding to go back into a building that is already on fire. His advisors agree, but they want to take a different, safer route. Here is the catch. Nobody tells the drivers. And here's where it gets really wild. The lead driver turns onto the original route by mistake. When the Archduke's driver, Leopold Lojka, realizes the error, he slams on the brakes. The car stalls. It stops right in front of a deli. Now this is where history gets genuinely strange. Who is standing outside that deli? Gavrilo Princip. He is 19 years old. He has finished his sandwich and is probably thinking about how he failed his country. Suddenly, the man he was supposed to kill is sitting in a stalled car 5 feet away. Princip does not hesitate. He pulls his pistol and fires 2 shots. Stop and think about that for a second. If the driver had not taken the wrong turn, or if the car had not stalled, or if Princip had gone to a different deli, the 20th century looks completely different. Most people assume these assassins were elite commandos. They were not. Princip was a student who had been rejected from the army for being too small. History is often shaped by people who feel they have nothing to lose. While we picture the soldiers of this era with specific gear, here is a curious fact. Vikings did not actually have horns on their helmets. People added those later because they looked cool in operas. Back in 1914, the gear was changing too. This was the transition from colorful uniforms to the muddy brown and green of trench warfare. The Archduke and Sophie both die from their wounds. This is not a local tragedy. It is the spark. Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Russia moves to help Serbia. Germany moves to help Austria. Within weeks, the entire continent is at war. This is World War I. It is the first time the world sees tanks, chemical weapons, and massive aerial dogfights. And the craziest thing, it actually worked. Not the peace, but the alliance system. It dragged everyone in exactly like it was designed to, but with horrifying results. Imagine the scale of what follows. Over 16 million people die. That is roughly equivalent to the entire population of New York City and London combined, gone in 4 years. The war changes how we live. It leads to the invention of plastic surgery, stainless steel, and even the pilot's watch. It changes the role of women in society forever because they keep the factories running while men are at the front. But there is one part of this story that historians still argue about. Was the war inevitable? Some say Europe was so angry that any small event would have started it. Others believe that if that driver had stayed on the main road, the world might have found a way to keep the peace. We will never know. What we do know is that a 19-year-old with a pistol and a hungry stomach managed to end an era of royalty and start an era of global conflict. The big reveal is how small the world actually is. Princip's actions lead to the fall of four massive empires: the German, Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, and Russian empires. These were powers that had lasted for centuries. They vanished because of a stalled engine. This one event creates the tensions that eventually lead to World War II. If that car had not stalled, your life today might be completely different. The map of the Middle East, the borders of Europe, and the rise of the United States as a superpower all trace back to that street corner in Sarajevo. History is full of moments that sound impossible, but every single one of them actually happened. That's what makes it better than fiction. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. We post every week, and every video will teach you something your history teacher hasn't mentioned yet. And drop your answer in the comments. If you were the driver and realized you took a wrong turn, would you have kept going or tried to turn around? The wrong turn that changed the world started with a sandwich and ended with a global catastrophe.